Hello, my name is Stresen-Reuter, founder and CEO of Divine Digital Agency, located here in Naples, Florida. Divine Digital Agency is a boutique app development agency that specializes in the custom app development for our clients worldwide. Our offices have been located here in Naples, Florida since 2016. We're on the corner of Pine Ridge and Livingston Road in Naples, Florida. And since 2016, we have successfully launched over 50 mobile applications for our clients. And hopefully through answering a few questions that you guys had prepared for me today, I can give you a little bit of a better understanding of what it's like being in the app development industry. So I'm going to dive right in and start with the first question on the list, which is, what kind of education do you need for a job like this? What's ironic about this first question is my background and experience is actually in marketing and entrepreneurship. So I don't think there's an exact right answer for this, because even somebody like myself is able to be involved and successful in this industry without some sort of technical formal education. But if you are exploring to get a degree or obtain a skill set for this industry particularly, I would focus in on anything obviously in computer science, anything in the graphic design side of things as well. Is tremendously helpful when you're thinking about the designing of applications and the user experience of an application. So those two are probably the obvious when looking to get involved in this industry. But there's a lot of informal educational resources out there for you as well, through either Udemy or LinkedIn Learning or anything else that you guys can find online to help provide you a solid foundation, or at least gauge your interest in being part of the app development industry is something that I would look to check out. The second question is, what got you into wanting to start developing apps for a living? Well, my story actually starts back in 2012 when I was a senior at Palm Beach Atlantic University. I entered an entrepreneurship contest that allowed me the opportunity to win some seed money to start my very first app concept called Toodle. Was able to take that from a concept into developing it into an actual app, scaled that app throughout the country, and then eventually it was acquired by a larger company to further develop it past my capabilities. And that was a true success story in my book. So enjoyed that experience so much, learned so much from that experience, that I wanted to replicate that process as much as possible, not only in my own experiences, but also for clients that decide to hire Divine Digital Agency to go through a similar process as well. The next question I have here is, getting a job for creating apps difficult? Great question. If you go the formal educational route and you're looking to obtain a job, whether it's in computer science or graphic design or app development itself, it's a very needed skill set in today's day and age, especially as technology continues to grow, especially as the need for apps continue to grow. Having those skill sets will be tremendously helpful, of course, for anybody that's looking to get into this industry. Now, what's interesting about my position is I wasn't looking for a job. It was easier for me to create a job instead. So what I did was started offering my services as being somebody who was an expert now in this experience of taking an app concept and developing it into an app. And I started offering that services for others to hire me to consult them through that process. That actually started about 4 or 5 years ago with a company called Web Guy Services, and that's continued to grow and become larger. And as our team has been created and established, and we have more members of the Divine Digital team, we are able to now transform that into an agency type of model, to where our clients now come to us and hire us to develop their ideas for their apps. So that actually takes me into my next question on, where do you get the ideas for your apps? What's great about this answer is I don't have to come up with the ideas for the apps, our clients do. Our clients contact us when they have an app idea that they'd like to come see to life. We are then hired by that client to go through the conceptual phase, the development phase, and the implementation phase. And in doing so, since a lot of our clients that come to Divine Digital have never built an app before in their lives, what we decided to do was we decided to break that process down into a very simple 3-step process. So I'm going to jump into that in our next question, where you ask, how long is the process of making an app? So in order to understand the time it takes, I want to explain to you a little bit about what the process takes first. So we've taken this process and simplified it and broken it down to a 3-step process. Step 1, step 2, step 3, to make it super simple for our clients. And essentially step 1 is the wireframing of an app. Step 2 is the design of an app, and step 3 is the development of the app. So to break it down into an easier to understand analogy, we always like to use the analogy of building a house. Building an app is a lot like building a house. You wouldn't want to just hire a bunch of guys and say, start building. You'd want to hire a bunch of guys and say, start planning. And in doing so, you'd want them to produce a blueprint of the house that they're planning on building. So we do the exact same thing in our process. That's step 1 of our 3-step process is actually the wireframe part of the process, which allows us to create a blueprint for your application in a wireframe format. During the wireframing process, we're able to hyper-focus in on all the features and functionality that need to be represented into the app. We don't get distracted with the design and any of that until step 2, until the client has completely confirmed everything that's needed for step 1. During step 2, we actually move into the fun part of the process, which is the design part. This is where we add all the colors and animation and fonts, everything that a user would need, our client would need to have their app concept come to life for them. This is the opportunity that they have long awaited for, to see their app come to life, and usually by the 2nd step of our process is complete, they're able to see that app in its entirety and confirm it before we get into step 3, which is ultimately the development part of the process. So to answer your question, how long is the process of making an app? Well, breaking it down into our 3 steps that we just discussed, step 1 of the process typically takes anywhere between 2 to 3 weeks, but we usually don't want to rush this step of that process, because this is where we lay the foundation of the app. This is where we make sure we take all of the ideas from the client's brain and put it into a wireframe. So it's the most crucial and important part of the entire process, so we want to make sure we take our time. If we take our time and do the proper due diligence during step 1, we can really expedite the step 2 and even step 3 of the process, since everything's been confirmed in step 1. When we get to step 2, this is where we have a little bit more fun with the project and adding in the design and animations and such as we talked about. That as well takes about 2 to 3 weeks of implementation, depending on how much feedback and adjustments that the client have during the step 2 portion of the process. We typically let them know that it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to have that complete final product at the end of step 2. Then once we get into actual full development, that timeline can vary drastically. Typically, our projects range anywhere in the 8 to 10 week range as far as step 3 for development goes. That's for our standard app development projects. Now, some of our more sophisticated or advanced projects can take anywhere from 3 to 6 to 9 months, sometimes even greater, dependent on the advanced functionality and scope of work requirements outlined during step 1 and step 2 of the process is how long maybe step 3 will take, or short step 3 will take during the complete development process. So hopefully that gives you an idea. Usually from the time a client has their first point of contact with us through the onboarding process, step 1, step 2, into step 3, that can typically range anywhere between 3 to 4 months, going from concept to actual app producement in the app stores. So great question. The next question that we have here is, how do you know if your app will make money? That's always one of the first questions that our clients obviously have for us, especially after they see the price tag for the development of the app. They want to make sure they're getting a good ROI, or return on their investment, to make sure that they are confident in moving forward with the initial investment for the application development. So during that step 1 and step 2 portion of our process, we like to outline any sort of revenue stream opportunities for our app. So there's a lot of different revenue streams for apps. A lot of people, and even one of the next questions asked here is, how do you make sure you don't just clutter your app full of ads? Well, typically that's what people think of as being the only revenue stream for applications is ad placement all over the apps. Although that is one of the most popular revenue streams, it's not the only. We like to explore other revenue opportunities with our clients during that step 1 and step 2 process, where we'll talk about different things like membership fees, or a freemium model, which is essentially having the users come into the app for free, but then hiding premium features behind a paywall in order for them to have access to those additional features. So we like to call that a freemium model, is another revenue model as well. There's sponsorships that are a little bit different than ad placements. Ads are a little bit more sporadic in their ad placement type of formalities. When you talk about sponsorships, that's usually just one ad essentially that sponsors the entire application itself. But we like to explore all sorts of different types of creative revenue models with our clients during their development process. We'll take their concept, we'll take their customer, and we'll figure out how to generate revenue by bringing value to both the client and to the concept throughout the entire process. The next question we have here is, what obstacles do you go through in working on development? For me, I would say that the biggest obstacle, that once we get over that obstacle, usually the project is a lot more smooth sailing after, is that initial effort of taking what's in their brain and putting it into a wireframe. Usually whether yourself, you had an app idea before in the past, or when our clients come and hire Divine Digital Agency and they have an app idea that they're ready to develop, they usually have some sort of preconceived idea of what this app is supposed to look like, how it's supposed to function. So making sure that it's a match between what we produce and provide for them as a deliverable and what their initial idea was, and making sure those two match, is probably the most difficult obstacle that we have to accomplish in order to then move forward with the actual development of the app. So what's great about doing so is we can go through a lot of trial and error, a lot of communication, adjustments, feedbacks, etc. during step 1 and step 2. When the app idea is just down on paper in a wireframe version at that point, it's a lot easier to make adjustments and changes to the concept during that phase than it would be if that app was already developed. So in doing so, and having this 3-step process really helps eliminate and make sure that we successfully got past these obstacles of making sure that their concept is exactly what they like during the initial phases of this app before going too further into it. The next question we have here is, what do you do to stay productive with work when it gets tough and complicated? I think that's a great question. I think a lot of you probably experience that, whether you're into the work field now currently or whether you're with your schoolwork. One of the biggest suggestions that I have for anybody that's having issues with just getting momentum throughout your day, whether you're developing an app or anything else, is to make a list. I'm referencing a list right now. I reference a list every single morning. I prepare that list every single night prior to starting the next day, so that I can ensure that when I get started that next day, I can work from the top down and know that no matter what, if things come about, fires need to be put out throughout the day, which everybody experiences no matter what they're doing, that I have a solid list that I'm constantly referring back to make sure that the day is as productive as possible. The next question we have here is, if I could choose one piece of technology to stay alive, what would it be? I think the obvious answer there is obviously the mobile device. Without mobile devices, obviously, we wouldn't be able to produce mobile apps for our clients. But if, for instance, the mobile devices went away or something new was invented, there's a lot of different platforms that are starting to come out there now, like the Oculus Go, smart TVs, these different platforms that we're starting to explore the development of apps for those platforms that I think could be something very popular here in the near future. The next question we have here is, what do you hope to have in the future if your apps are successful? I hope to first have a happy client. If their app's successful, that means obviously they are then successful in reaping the benefits of having a successful app. But for me overall, I would love to just have a portfolio as a company of apps that we're proud of, apps that have had the success, whether it's bringing value to a market or making their business more efficient with a piece of app or technology that we've developed with them, or unless it could even be the ultimate American dream, which is to have that app eventually acquired, would be a huge success for not only our clients but for us as well, and something that we'd be really proud of. So in a few years from now, I'd love to be able to look back and say, man, we've really been able to make quite a few apps successful, however that client sees success being for their applications. I just hope to be a part of it for them. The next question I have here is, what do you see yourself doing in the future? What goals have you set aside to consider this to be successful as well? Off of Divine Digital, after we create our application projects right now, our mobile apps for our clients right now, we usually have to refer them out to a third-party marketing service. We like to say that we're the contractors of the house. We went back to that house analogy before. So we like to build the house, but we don't like to plan the house parties. And planning the house parties, in my opinion, would be considered anything on the marketing side of things of the mobile app. So in the near future, I would love to launch a marketing branch off of Divine Digital Agency that focuses in on the successful marketing of our applications that we have developed for our clients. Right now, we're just focused in on the development side of things, but I hope here in the near future, we're able to also focus in on the marketing side of these applications we've produced as well. I think going through the list, that answers a majority of the questions that you guys had prepared for me for today. I hope that gives you a great insight into what it's like to develop apps as part of Divine Digital Agency, and a little bit of an insight of what our process and what the industry is like. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. You can visit us on our website at www.divinedigitalagency.com to see a little bit more about who we are, what we do, and what we've done. You could also contact me directly at any time, jared@divinedigitalagency.com, or you could give me a call or shoot me a text anytime as well, 239-249-5245. And we'd love to answer any other questions you may have, give you some more insights into what it's all about, being part of the app development industry. And hopefully you got some good value out of this video today, and it helps encourage future excitement of being part of the app development industry, because we would love to see this industry continue to grow, love to see you obviously part of it. And as I said, if you have any questions in order to encourage that excitement to continue to grow about being in the app development industry, please feel free to contact me at any time. Thank you and have a good one.